take a deep breath and clear your mind for a second, I would like to take you on a little thought journey. Get the old grey matter moving again in the right direction. We need to motivate and create a new way of thinking for ourselves, which is survival centric, and stop relying on the government. Stop looking to these politicians with open arms, expecting that they are going to do everything that we need, and it's always going to be that way. And the reason is, if you think about it, it's an absolute miracle that things have been going so well for us over the last 30 to 40 years. It's an absolute miracle that when you leave your house, the lights are on when it's dark, you drive down the road, the traffic lights work, everybody's going around on the roads generally following the rules. There was food in your fridge, there was gas in the pipes when you made your breakfast, there was power to put your kettle on and have your coffee. And nobody ever thinks about what would happen if all of that stuff just wasn't there or didn't work. If you didn't have the money to buy the goods to put in your fridge to eat. Or even worse, the money was worthless and the shops lay empty. Nobody likes to think about these things in terms of what would happen if they didn't work so well, if that miracle were to end. Since nobody has any appreciation for just how miraculous those things really are. So I'd like to ask you to think, what would happen if on the next payday no money was in your account, you didn't get paid, and then when you got on the phone nobody answered it? When you opened your fridge, all the food was spoiled and rotten, the power was off, and that went on for a week, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. What do you think would happen to you? How do you think you would react when you run out of food, when you have no power, no heating, your car has no petrol in it, and you have no money? How do you think your neighbours would react, or people you didn't know? Do you think they would just sit there, starve to death, beg to the government, even though their phones were dormant, the telly was blank, there was no picture? Or do you think people might take things into their own hands and start searching for someone who did have those things that they could take to feed themselves and their families with? It's worth thinking about. When you look across the world, compared to us, they're in a much worse situation, a much worse scenario than we are. Many countries, although they're not as bad as what I just described, have bigger problems than we have. They don't have the law, the police, the traffic lights, the food in the fridge, or the pay going into their account. They don't have any of those things. And let me tell you, people do take things into their own hands, especially when there's no enforcement from the police. There's no one to call for backup when it's just you looking out for yourself, especially when you have a family to rely on you. People do strange things in the toughest times, and I think we have to expect that here. When you look out across the world, it doesn't match what you hear when you turn on your TV. When you listen to the news and they say, oh, there's a war here or there, but it will be fine. They never tell you what the result would be if it wasn't fine. For instance, if the shipping lanes were suddenly closed, if the price of fuel went up through the roof and the ships didn't leave the harbour, if the shops started to empty and not refill, or like I say, the power died and you couldn't put petrol in your car, what would you end up doing? I know what people would end up doing, and I've already made accounts for that. I know that the storeroom I have in there, full of food and supplies, clothing and fuel, makes me a target. I've already thought that through. So when and if that does happen, and people start panicking and starving, and wondering what's going to happen tomorrow and today, and the police aren't going to be there to rely upon to defend me, offer me the security that I take for granted every day, that I've paid my taxes to have, when all that's gone, I know it's going to be down to me to stop the people out there getting in here and robbing me blind, taking the stuff that I've collected in there for themselves, because it's going to be a dog-eat-dog world. When there's no United Nations to protect the shipping lanes, when there's no America to lower the price of fuel with the World Trade Organization, when there's no Britain to shout about human rights, to declare illegal wars illegal, to decry war crimes, and there's no democratic population in China under control, when they're, running out of food and water, and they're dispersing across the world to come and take what we have here. I don't think anyone's thought this through at all, and I think we really need to do it now. Like I've said before, education's low, people's minds are enslaved by what they hear on social media and what they're told. They don't really know anything. Like, think about it. What do you actually know? What do you know about Israel? What do you know about Ukraine? What do you know about this country? How sure are you that those things are correct? And when it comes to the crunch, what can you offer? What can you offer yourself and your family in terms of practicality when the shit hits the fan? How confident are you that you will be able to get through those times? A week, 2 weeks, a month? Perhaps it will go on for 10 years. So that's why I'm making this video. I really think it's time now to start taking the threat of the future seriously. Not to panic, not to lose your mind, but to start thinking in terms of being more confident, courageous and brave, and really considering maybe this beautiful, miraculous cloud where everything works that we've been living on for the last X amount of years isn't so secure as we think it is. And if it were to be whisked out from underneath our feet, where would we be then, and what would we be doing? Who else would we be willing to support with the last of our food and water and heating? Whose side would we go to if they needed our help? And how far would we be willing to go in order to defend them or ourselves and our family? Do we even know how that would work? Or would we just hide in a corner, praying to God that it would all just work itself out? Because mark my words, prayer is one thing, but leaving things to chance is not a good strategy. Like I always say, hope is a wonderful thing that we should all have, but it is no kind of strategy. You have a strategy and you hope that it works out for you. It's not the other way around. Don't hope that a strategy will come to you, it won't. So in conclusion, watch the previous videos I've made if you need more pointers, or hit me up in the comments. I'm happy to help. But we need to accept at this point, you need to accept and I need to accept, the things we're used to, the quality of life, the ease of living that we're used to, the comfort and security that we've enjoyed, if it were to disappear, and it was up to us to ensure our own survival, we would need to be educated, in good health, we would need a way to communicate with each other, and we would need to know who our friends were and who our enemies were. We'd need to be prepared. We'd need to have food, water, warm clothing, enough to last us if, for instance, the shops did empty and we knew they weren't going to be refilled. We'd need security in our own places just in case people were to start rioting. If the starving masses were at the door looking to rob your stuff and they didn't care about you and your family because they were too concerned about their own. Like I say, when it comes down to it, when the shit hits the fan, it's every dog for himself. That's the God's honest truth. So that's the end of this video. Hope I've given you something to think about, and you really put your mind to it over the next 6 months, because that's how long we've got until things start to flake away at the corners and these things become apparent. The government will no longer be able to convince you with their lies to make you look the other way or believe that everything's fine. At that point, we will become part of the global economy that's on its fucking knees right now, and realise, guys, the miracle is over. Tough times are ahead, right ahead of us, and if we don't get ready for them, we'll be washed away. So let's not let that happen. Be strong, but be smart, have courage, get yourself ready, keep your eyes on the prize. And that's the end of this video. So I hope you've enjoyed that. You think about what I've said, and you do what you need to do. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye now. Somebody needed to say it, and I think it's a sign of the times that that somebody was me. So do what you need to do, keep in touch, God bless, and I'll see you next time.